What if the most powerful upgrade to your health didn't come from a supplement, a device, or a complex routine, but from something alive, silent, and already within reach? Something that costs less than a single dinner, asks for only minutes of attention each week, and has been studied not just casually, but by space agencies, sleep labs, and molecular biologists. Plants have always been part of human environments, not as decoration, but as a biological constant. We evolved alongside them, and now modern science is beginning to measure just how deeply they influence us. The scent released by certain plants doesn't just smell pleasant. It interacts with receptors in the brain that regulate stress and emotion. Living greenery in a workspace doesn't just look calming. It has been shown to reduce error rates and improve focus under controlled conditions. Even the air itself changes. Rooms with specific plants show measurable reductions in compounds known to damage cells at the molecular level. This is not alternative medicine. This is not belief. Simply put, this is biology. What you're about to see is a curated system, 12 plants, each selected for one reason. They deliver specific measurable wellness benefits, not vague claims, not trends, but documented effects on your body, your mind, and the environment you live in every day. Each plant in this video comes with 4 things: the research behind it, the mechanism that makes it work, the exact way to care for it, and where to place it for maximum impact. Because placement changes everything. A plant in the wrong room is decoration. A plant in the right place becomes a system. Before we begin, consider your current environment. Do you have any plants in your bedroom? Has your sleep been affected by the space you live in? Because by the end of this video, you may start seeing your home very differently. But before we get to the list, there's something more important to understand first. The mechanism behind why any of this works at all, and this is where the real shift begins. Before choosing the right plants, you need to understand something more important than the plants themselves, the mechanism. Because once you understand how plants affect your body, you stop guessing and start placing them with precision. There are 3 scientifically documented pathways through which indoor plants influence human health, and each one operates whether you notice it or not. Mechanism 1, phytoncides and immune activation. Plants continuously release microscopic airborne compounds, known as phytoncides. These are part of the plant's natural defense system, but when humans inhale them, something unexpected happens. These compounds interact directly with olfactory receptors, which connect to the limbic system, the part of the brain responsible for emotion and immune regulation. In controlled studies, exposure to these compounds increased natural killer cell activity by up to 50%, cells responsible for identifying and destroying virus-infected and cancerous cells. And the effect didn't disappear immediately, it persisted for weeks, which means the air around living plants is not neutral, it's biologically active. Mechanism 2, cortisol reduction and stress modulation. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and unlike mood, it can be measured precisely. In controlled experiments, individuals interacting with indoor plants showed significantly lower salivary cortisol levels compared to those performing the same tasks without plants. This is not perception, it is a measurable hormonal shift. Lower cortisol affects everything: sleep quality, immune strength, cardiovascular health, and cognitive clarity. Certain aromatic plants go even further. Their compounds interact with neurotransmitter systems linked to anxiety and sleep regulation, producing effects similar to pharmacological agents without dependency. Mechanism 3, air purification through phytoremediation. Indoor air contains volatile organic compounds, VOCs, released continuously from furniture, paint, fabrics, and synthetic materials. These compounds accumulate silently, but plants, and more importantly the microbial ecosystems around their roots, use these compounds as fuel. Through a process called phytoremediation, harmful airborne chemicals are absorbed, broken down, and neutralized. In controlled environments, specific plants reduced concentrations of compounds like formaldehyde, benzene, and xylene, substances directly linked to respiratory irritation and long-term health risks. And here's the key detail most people miss. The soil is doing most of the work. The plant is the visible system. The real processing happens below the surface. When you combine these 3 mechanisms, airborne biochemical signaling, hormonal regulation, and environmental detoxification, you don't just have decoration, you have a living system influencing your physiology every hour of the day. And now that you understand the system, we can finally move to the plants that make it work, but that's only the beginning. If one plant on this list delivers immediate, visible results, the kind you can verify in seconds, it's this one. Aloe vera, a living system in your home. Not as a concept, not as a supplement, as a living system sitting quietly in your home. Break a leaf, and inside is a gel that has been studied across clinical trials for one purpose: accelerating tissue repair. This is not traditional belief, it is documented biology. In controlled studies, topical aloe application has been shown to increase collagen production, improve skin elasticity, and significantly accelerate wound healing across burns, abrasions, and surgical recovery. The mechanism is precise. Compounds like axmanin activate macrophages, cells responsible for initiating repair. At the same time, fibroblast activity increases, driving collagen synthesis, while angiogenesis improves blood supply to damaged tissue. 3 systems activated simultaneously. Repair becomes faster, more efficient, more complete. But the medicinal value of aloe is only half the story. The second function is something most people never notice until it's too late. Aloe is also a living air quality indicator. When exposed to elevated levels of airborne toxins, especially formaldehyde, the leaves begin to develop small brown or rust-colored spots. This is not disease, it is stress signaling the plant is reacting to the same compounds you are breathing. Furniture, paint, synthetic materials, these continuously release volatile chemicals into indoor air. You don't see them, you don't smell most of them, but aloe responds. It becomes a passive monitoring system. No sensors, no electricity, no alerts, just visible biological feedback. Which means the condition of your plant is directly tied to the condition of your environment. Placement then becomes strategic. Aloe belongs where access is immediate. Kitchens, bright windowsills, high-use spaces. Anywhere a minor burn, skin irritation, or cut might happen. At the same time, it works silently in the background, monitoring air quality without asking for attention. Minimal care. Maximum function. Water it once every few weeks. Give it light, leave it alone. And it will do what most systems cannot. Heal and inform at the same time. Now compare that to a plant that doesn't just affect the body, but directly changes how your brain enters sleep. And this is where things become even more precise. If aloe works on the surface of the body, lavender works deeper, at the level of the nervous system. Not symbolically, chemically. Lavender is one of the most extensively studied plants in human sleep research, and the reason is simple. Its primary compound directly interacts with the brain's inhibitory system. This potent sleep-inducing compound is known as linalool. When released into the air, linalool is inhaled and detected by olfactory receptors, which connect almost instantly to the limbic system, the control center for emotion, memory, and stress response. But the real effect happens at a deeper level. Linalool modulates GABA-A receptors, the same receptors targeted by pharmaceutical sedatives and anti-anxiety medications. This is the system responsible for slowing neural activity. When GABA activity increases, the brain transitions out of high alert states and into calm, controlled inhibition. Heart rate slows, mental chatter reduces, sleep onset becomes easier. And make no mistake, this isn't just theoretical, it's an evidence-based reality. A multi-study analysis of lavender exposure showed measurable improvements in sleep efficiency, reduced nighttime awakenings, and increased time spent in deep, slow-wave sleep. These are objective changes, recorded through sleep monitoring, not subjective impressions. The body is not just feeling more relaxed, it is entering better sleep architecture. There's also a critical distinction here. Pharmaceutical agents that target GABA receptors often lead to tolerance and dependency. Linalool does not produce this pattern. It interacts gently, producing consistent effects without forcing the system beyond its natural range, which means it supports sleep without disrupting long-term balance. Placement, again, determines effectiveness. Lavender belongs close to where you sleep, a bedside table, a window near the bed. This is not about fragrance. It is about neurochemistry, a plant influencing the exact receptors that determine whether your brain stays alert or lets go. But sleep isn't only about brain chemistry. The environment itself matters, and the next plant addresses all three while removing something else entirely: uncertainty. And this is where control becomes effortless. Most plants reduce stress indirectly. This one does it directly by removing a problem most people don't even realize they have: uncertainty. The peace lily is one of the few plants that doesn't just improve your environment, it simplifies your interaction with it, because it tells you exactly what it needs. When water levels drop, the leaves don't subtly fade or slowly decline, they collapse, visibly, dramatically, unmistakably. And within hours of watering, they recover just as clearly. This creates a feedback loop that is almost impossible to misinterpret. No guessing, no overthinking, no slow damage happening unnoticed. This makes care becomes entirely predictable. And that predictability removes a specific type of low-level stress, the kind that comes from not knowing whether you're doing something correctly. But the psychological effect is only one layer. The environmental impact is just as measurable. In controlled testing, peace lily has shown strong removal rates for multiple volatile compounds. Benzene, formaldehyde, and trichloroethylene, substances continuously released from common indoor materials. It also stands out for something less discussed: acetone removal. Acetone enters indoor air from cleaning agents, synthetic products, and everyday household chemicals. Among commonly available plants, peace lily demonstrates one of the highest removal rates for this compound, which means it doesn't just clean air broadly, it targets specific pollutants that often go unnoticed. And then there's the visual effect. The white spathe, the plant's signature bloom, creates a form of visual stillness. Minimal contrast, soft structure, no visual noise. This matters more than it seems, because environments that reduce visual complexity lower cognitive load, and lower cognitive load contributes directly to a sense of calm. So the plant works on 3 levels at once. It simplifies care, it improves air chemistry, and it reduces visual stress. Placement should reflect that. Home offices, bedrooms, any space where calm and clarity are priorities. Low light is sufficient, direct sun is unnecessary. Water only when the plant asks for it, because it will. And when a system becomes this simple, something important happens. You stop managing it and start trusting it. But what if one plant could go even further, not just cleaning air, but actively changing the physical atmosphere of the entire room? Now we move from subtle effects to environmental transformation. Most plants influence the air around them. This one changes the entire room. The areca palm operates at a different scale, not because of a single compound, but because of the total system it creates. Air purification, humidity regulation, spatial transformation, working simultaneously. In controlled research and long-term observation, this plant has been ranked among the highest performing indoor species. Across multiple categories, removal of airborne compounds, oxygen contribution, and particulate interaction. But its most overlooked function is not what it removes, it's what it adds. Moisture. Indoor air, especially in enclosed or climate-controlled environments, tends to drop far below optimal humidity levels. In many homes, it sits between 20 to 30%. At that level, the body begins to compensate. Airways dry out, mucosal defenses weaken, breathing becomes less efficient, sleep quality declines. The areca palm counteracts this through a continuous biological process, transpiration. Water is drawn from the soil, moved through the plant, and released as vapor through microscopic openings in the leaves. In a healthy, mature plant, this process can release close to 1 liter of water per day into the surrounding air. No electricity, no filters, no maintenance cycles. Just a continuous passive increase in ambient humidity. And that shift matters, because optimal humidity, between 40 to 60%, supports respiratory health, reduces irritation, and improves overall comfort during sleep. But the effect isn't only physical, it's visual. The structure of the areca palm changes how a space feels. Large arching fronds, soft movement in still air, layered green textures that break up rigid indoor lines. This introduces what environmental psychologists refer to as natural complexity. A pattern the human brain processes effortlessly, reducing mental fatigue and promoting calm. So the plant doesn't just modify the air, it changes perception. A room with an areca palm feels different before you even consciously register why. Placement determines reach, corners of bedrooms, living rooms, larger open spaces where the plant can expand and influence airflow. The bigger the plant, the greater the effect. And unlike mechanical systems, the output increases naturally as the plant grows, which means over time, the environment improves with it, no upgrades required. But not all plants work at the scale of a room. Some operate with precision, targeting a single system inside the body. And the next one does exactly that, not through the air you breathe, but through what reaches your brain. Most plants influence how you feel. This one influences how you think. Rosemary operates at the level of cognitive performance, not through touch, not through consumption, but through the air itself. Its primary active compound is 1,8-cineol, a volatile molecule released naturally from the plant's leaves, invisible, continuous, and unusually effective. When inhaled, this compound enters the bloodstream, not metaphorically, measurably. In controlled studies, participants exposed to rosemary in a room showed detectable levels of 1,8-cineol in their blood plasma. And more importantly, those levels correlated directly with performance. Higher concentration, better results, faster response times, improved accuracy, stronger memory retention. This is not a placebo effect, it is a biochemical pathway. 1,8-cineol crosses the blood-brain barrier and interacts with a critical system, acetylcholine regulation. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter responsible for attention, learning, and memory formation. After it performs its function, it is broken down by an enzyme, acetylcholinesterase. Rosemary slows this breakdown, which means acetylcholine remains active for longer. Signals persist, focus stabilizes, information retention improves. This is the same pathway targeted by certain cognitive-enhancing medications. But here, it's happening passively from a plant in the room. No intake required, no routine to maintain, just presence. There's also a secondary effect. The scent itself stimulates alertness, not aggressively, but steadily. Unlike caffeine, which spikes and drops, rosemary maintains a consistent level of cognitive activation without overstimulation, which makes it particularly effective in environments where sustained attention matters. Workspaces, study areas, creative environments, anywhere the brain is expected to perform for extended periods. Strategic placement of the plant should reflect that. Position the plant within your breathing zone, on a desk, near a workstation, or within arm's reach. Light is essential. Bright conditions support stronger compound release. And unlike many plants, rosemary benefits from interaction. Touching the leaves slightly increases the release of aromatic compounds, creating a subtle but immediate boost in intensity. So the system becomes interactive. You engage with the plant and it responds. But cognitive performance is only one side of mental wellness, because even the sharpest mind cannot function without recovery. And the next plant doesn't enhance focus, it enhances what happens when the mind lets go. This is where scent becomes something more powerful, something that directly reshapes how you sleep. If lavender prepares the brain for sleep, jasmine deepens the experience once sleep begins. It operates on similar pathways, but with a different intensity and timing. Jasmine releases a complex blend of aromatic compounds, including linalool and indole. Together, these compounds interact with two critical systems in the brain: GABA regulation, which reduces neural activity and anxiety, and serotonin pathways, which influence mood and emotional stability. This dual interaction creates a distinct effect. Not just easier sleep onset, but more stable, less disrupted sleep cycles. In controlled environments, individuals exposed to jasmine aroma during sleep showed measurable changes. Reduced movement throughout the night, lower heart rate, less restlessness. And most importantly, deeper, more consistent sleep. These are not subjective reports, they are physiological responses. With jasmine in the room, your sleep becomes significantly quieter and more restful. The body spends less time transitioning between stages and more time in restoration. There is also a mood component. Serotonin is directly linked to emotional regulation. While jasmine exposure does not replicate pharmaceutical effects, studies consistently show a shift in direction, reduced anxiety, improved calm, and greater emotional stability. So the plant works across two timelines: during the night, improving sleep quality; during the day, supporting mood stability. But jasmine has one additional advantage that makes it uniquely effective: timing. Unlike most flowering plants, jasmine releases its strongest fragrance in the evening and at night, exactly when the body is preparing for sleep, which means the system aligns naturally with your circadian rhythm. No scheduling, no intervention. The plant becomes active when you need it most. Placement should take advantage of this, near a bedroom window, beside the bed. Anywhere airflow can gently carry the fragrance into your breathing space. Support may be required. The plant grows as a vine, but that structure allows flexibility in positioning, shaping the plant to fit your environment. Light during the day fuels the system. Fragrance at night delivers the effect. But while some plants support sleep through chemistry, others support it through timing, through when they interact with the air itself. And the next plant does something almost no other indoor plant can do. It works while you sleep, changing the composition of the air in real time. Most plants follow the same daily rhythm. They release oxygen during the day and reverse the process at night. The snake plant does the opposite. It belongs to a group of plants that use a specialized process called CAM photosynthesis. Instead of opening their pores during daylight, they keep them closed, conserving water and limiting loss. Then at night, those pores open, and this is when the shift happens. Carbon dioxide is absorbed, oxygen is released. While you sleep through the night, this change is something subtle but important, because sleep is when your breathing pattern becomes slower and deeper. Air reaches further into the lungs, gas exchange becomes more efficient, which means the quality of the air you breathe during these hours matters more than at any other time of day. A standard plant contributes during daylight, when you are active, moving, and often outside. The snake plant contributes during stillness, during recovery, during the hours when your body is doing its deepest internal work. This doesn't mean it floods a room with oxygen. The effect is not dramatic, but it is continuous. And consistency matters more than intensity in enclosed environments. Alongside this, the plant also participates in removing common indoor pollutants: formaldehyde, benzene, and xylene, compounds released from furniture, fabrics, and synthetic materials. So it operates on two levels: subtle air improvement through the night and ongoing pollutant interaction throughout the day. But there's another reason this plant appears in homes across different cultures, far beyond modern research. Traditionally, it has been placed near entrances and sleeping areas as a form of protection. Not symbolic, but practical in its own way, a plant that survives in low light, requires minimal care, and continues functioning when everything else in the room is inactive. It becomes a constant, and constants create stability. Placement is straightforward: bedroom corners, near the bed, anywhere airflow can circulate around it during the night. Care is minimal: water every few weeks, avoid excess moisture, allow the soil to dry completely between cycles. It is one of the few systems on this list that continues working, even when ignored, which makes it reliable. But while this plant supports the body during rest, the next one supports the body under stress, not through air alone, but through direct interaction with your biological stress response. And this is where plant care itself becomes part of the system. Some plants influence the environment around you. This one influences how your body responds to pressure itself. Holy basil, commonly known as tulsi, is classified as an adaptogen, a category of compounds that do not simply stimulate or suppress the body but regulate it. Specifically, tulsi interacts with the HPA axis, the system that controls your stress response. When you experience pressure, this system triggers the release of cortisol. Short term, that's useful. But when cortisol remains elevated over time, it begins to affect sleep, focus, immunity, and long-term health. Tulsi works by modulating this response, not shutting it down, but bringing it back into balance. In controlled trials, individuals using tulsi showed measurable reductions in stress markers, including salivary cortisol. At the same time, improvements were recorded in fatigue, sleep quality, and cognitive clarity. This is a systemic effect, not limited to one function, but influencing multiple outcomes through a single pathway. The active compounds responsible, eugenol and rosmarinic acid, interact with biochemical stress pathways, reducing inflammatory response and stabilizing hormonal fluctuations. But Tulsi operates on a second level that most systems cannot replicate: behavior. Unlike passive plants, Tulsi encourages interaction. It benefits from regular care, consistent watering, light exposure, and attention. And that interaction creates a pattern, a daily pause, a moment of stillness in the middle of routine. From a psychological perspective, this becomes a form of micro-mindfulness, short, repeated engagement with a living system, shown in research to reduce rumination, lower stress perception, and improve emotional regulation. So the plant works in two ways: chemically, through its compounds, and behaviorally, through your interaction with it. Few wellness systems operate on both levels simultaneously. Placement supports this interaction, near an entrance, in a kitchen window, anywhere you pass multiple times a day. The goal is not just exposure, but repetition, because the more consistently you engage with the plant, the stronger the behavioral effect becomes. And over time, that small daily interaction compounds into something larger, a regulated response to stress. But stress reduction is only one part of a healthy environment. For many households, there's another factor that changes everything: safety, children, pets, shared spaces. And the next plant is the only one on this list designed for exactly that. A system that improves air quality without introducing any risk at all. Most air purifying plants come with a trade-off. They improve the environment, but introduce a level of risk. Toxicity to pets, irritation if ingested, uncertainty in shared spaces. The spider plant removes that trade-off entirely. It is one of the only widely available indoor plants that is completely non-toxic to pets, children, and humans, while still delivering measurable air purification, which makes it unique. Because in environments where safety matters, most options become limited. Here you don't compromise. In controlled studies, spider plants demonstrated the ability to remove up to 95% of formaldehyde from enclosed environments within 24 hours. Formaldehyde is one of the most common indoor pollutants, released from furniture, fabrics, adhesives, and construction materials. And exposure matters more for certain groups. Children in particular are more vulnerable. They breathe more air relative to body size, their systems are still developing, and they spend more time indoors, which means the same air has a greater impact. Placing a spider plant in a child's room is not decorative. It is targeted environmental support. And because the plant is non-toxic, interaction is not a concern. No monitoring required, no restrictions needed, the system remains effective and safe. But there's another advantage: self-replication. A healthy spider plant produces offshoots, small plantlets that grow from extended stems. These can be replanted easily, creating new plants without additional cost. Over time, one plant becomes many, and each one contributes to the same function: air improvement and safety. This changes the scale of the system. Instead of relying on a single plant in a single location, you can distribute multiple units across different rooms: bedrooms, living areas, shared spaces, all from one original source. Care remains simple: moderate light, water every 1 to 2 weeks, minimal intervention, which means the system expands without increasing complexity. Safe, self-sustaining, scalable. But air quality and safety are only part of the environment. There's another factor that directly affects how you think, how long you focus, and how quickly your mind recovers from effort. And the next plant addresses that, not through chemistry alone, but through how your brain interacts with what it sees. Not all mental fatigue comes from stress. Some of it comes from overuse. Focused work, reading, writing, problem solving, draws on a limited cognitive resource known as directed attention. And when that resource is depleted, performance drops, mistakes increase, focus weakens, decision-making slows. Rest is required, but not all rest is effective. Scrolling, passive consumption, or distraction does not restore directed attention. It often continues to drain it. What the brain needs is something different. A specific type of engagement known as soft fascination. This is where pothos becomes more than a plant. It becomes a cognitive tool. Pothos creates visual patterns that the brain processes effortlessly. Subtle movement, irregular growth, natural variation in color and shape. These elements hold attention gently, without demanding effort, and that is the key. Because when attention is engaged without effort, the brain's directed attention system is allowed to recover in the background. This concept is formalized as attention restoration theory. In controlled environments, the presence of natural elements, including indoor plants, has been shown to improve cognitive performance, reduce mental fatigue, and increase accuracy in tasks requiring sustained focus. The effect is not dramatic in a single moment, but over time, it compounds. Short recovery periods become more effective. Work sessions extend without decline. Mental clarity stabilizes. Placement determines effectiveness. Pothos performs best when it enters your peripheral vision. Not directly in front of you, but slightly to the side, above eye level, trailing from a shelf, hanging near your workspace. This positioning allows the plant to remain present without becoming a distraction. The brain registers it continuously, and that continuous exposure creates ongoing micro-recovery. Unlike tools that require active use, this system works passively. No input required, just presence. There is also a secondary function. Pothos contributes to air purification, interacting with compounds like formaldehyde and benzene, but its primary value is cognitive. It restores what focused work depletes, which makes it essential in any environment where thinking is the primary task. And when combined with the plants you've already seen, the system begins to take shape. Air quality, stress regulation, sleep optimization, cognitive performance. But there are still two dimensions left, time and breath. And the next plant addresses both, not quickly, but over years. Most wellness systems promise fast results. This one, however, works very differently. It improves your life slowly, consistently, over years. The jade plant is not here for immediate impact, it is here for continuity. Because long-term well-being is not built from single actions. It comes from repeated, stable patterns, small interactions that accumulate over time. And this is exactly what the jade plant creates. It grows slowly. In ideal conditions, just a small amount each month, almost unnoticeable in the short term. But over years, that growth becomes significant. A thicker trunk, stronger structure, a form that becomes more defined with time. You begin with a small plant, and gradually, without realizing it, it becomes something substantial. This slow progression creates a different kind of relationship. You are not managing the plant, you are growing with it. From a psychological perspective, this has measurable effects. Long-term care of living systems has been shown to reduce anxiety, increase emotional stability, and create a sense of purpose. Not because the task is complex, but because it is consistent, a small responsibility that remains present across changing conditions. And the jade plant supports that better than most. It requires minimal care. Bright light, infrequent watering, stable placement. There is no pressure to maintain constant attention, but the plant responds to what you give it. Care is reflected in growth. Neglect slows it down, but rarely destroys it, which creates a low-risk environment for long-term engagement. There is also a symbolic layer, one that appears across multiple cultures. The jade plant is often associated with stability, prosperity, and endurance. Not as abstract ideas, but as reflections of the plant's actual behavior. It survives, it persists, it strengthens over time. And those same patterns, when repeated in your environment, begin to influence how you think. Patience increases, expectations adjust. Short-term urgency gives way to long-term perspective. Placement should reflect visibility. This is not a background plant. It belongs where you can see it regularly, on a desk, in a living room, in a place that marks the passage of time. Because the effect is not in what the plant does today, but in what it represents over years. And when combined with the systems you've already seen, one final piece remains, the most direct connection between your environment and your body, the air you breathe. And the next plant delivers that function at the highest level measured. Every system in your body depends on one constant, air. You process it continuously, thousands of times per day, without interruption, without control, and often without awareness, which means the quality of that air determines more than comfort. It determines baseline health. The Boston fern addresses this at the most fundamental level, not through multiple small effects, but through one dominant function, high-efficiency air purification. In controlled testing, this plant demonstrated one of the highest recorded removal rates of formaldehyde, a compound consistently present in indoor environments. Released from furniture, pressed wood, fabrics, and coatings, formaldehyde accumulates slowly. You don't notice it, but the body does. Irritation in the eyes and airways, reduced respiratory comfort. Long-term exposure risks that compound over time. The Boston fern directly interacts with this compound, not masking it, not filtering it mechanically, but absorbing and breaking it down through biological processes linked to both the plant and the microbial system in its soil. The result is continuous reduction, hour after hour, without interruption. But this plant does not operate on a single axis. It also contributes to humidity regulation. Through transpiration, water moves from the roots to the leaves and is released into the surrounding air as vapor. This increases ambient moisture levels, counteracting the dryness common in enclosed indoor spaces. And that matters, because dry air places stress on the respiratory system, it reduces the effectiveness of natural defenses, increases irritation, and disrupts sleep quality. By restoring moisture balance, the Boston fern supports easier breathing, especially over long durations. So the system works in two directions, removing harmful compounds and improving the physical quality of the air itself. This combination makes it the most complete respiratory support plan on this list, but there is a trade-off. It requires more attention than most, consistent moisture, moderate light, a stable environment. It responds quickly to neglect, but that responsiveness is part of its effectiveness. The more stable the care, the more stable the output. Placement is critical. Bedrooms, living rooms, spaces where you spend extended time breathing the same air, because the benefit scales with exposure. The longer you are in the environment, the greater the effect. And when this plant is combined with the others, something larger begins to form, not individual benefits, but a complete system. Now the question is, how do you arrange it? Individually, each of these plants delivers a specific benefit, but their full potential is only realized when they are arranged as a system. Because wellness is not one-dimensional. It is the result of multiple factors working together: air quality, stress levels, cognitive function, and sleep. And each room in your home serves a different role within that system. So placement is not aesthetic, it is functional. Now let's start with the bedroom. This is where you spend the longest continuous time breathing the same air, during the most critical recovery phase of your day. The optimal combination is 3 plants working together: Boston fern for maximum formaldehyde removal and humidity balance, snake plant for nighttime oxygen release, lavender for direct neurological sleep support, air quality, oxygen timing, neurochemistry, all addressed in one environment. Now let's move to the home office. Here the priority shifts to performance and focus. Here is the ideal combination for your workspace: rosemary for cognitive enhancement through airborne compounds, pothos for attention restoration through passive visual interaction, peace lily for clean air with minimal maintenance demand. Together, they reduce mental fatigue, improve accuracy, and stabilize focus over long work periods. Next, the living space. This is where multiple people share the same environment, often with different sensitivities and needs. The system here must be balanced. Areca palm for large-scale humidity and air improvement, spider plant for safe, non-toxic air purification, jade plant for long-term stability and visual grounding. This creates a space that is both physically comfortable and psychologically steady. Finally, the kitchen, a high-use environment where function and immediacy matter. The ideal setup for your kitchen includes aloe vera for direct medicinal access and air monitoring, tulsi for daily interaction and stress regulation, rosemary for both cognitive support and culinary use. This transforms the kitchen from a purely functional space into a daily wellness interaction point. And when these systems are placed correctly, something important happens. The benefits stop being isolated. Then the benefits begin to overlap. Notice how the air improves across every room. Stress reduces across the day. Your sleep becomes significantly deeper. Your focus becomes more stable and reliable. The home itself becomes an integrated environment. It is designed not just for basic living, but for functioning at a higher level. And once that system is in place, there's only one step left. And the final step is simply making it consistent.